Hi everyone, I'm back to my channel after a long time of not being here, not sharing anything. I know I've been gone quite a while. There's been a lot going on in my life, so that explains the absence, but I'm going to be back to making videos. I'm going to do a whole bunch of videos regarding phalloplasty and different topics of those. I'll get into what those will be later, but this video I wanted to make because it's really important to me, as it held me off from getting phalloplasty for quite a while, and that is the myths about phallo. So there's quite a few myths going around, even in the trans population, about what phalloplasty looks like and what results it can bring and the process. And these were myths that I did too pass around quite often without even questioning or knowing where it came from. Just things that I heard in the community, things that I believed to be true that were actually quite damaging, and maybe even offensive in some ways to the post-op phallo community. So I did some research, I talked to some people who had the surgery themselves, and it kind of cleared these myths up for me. Also, having had surgery myself did that. Some of these I came to realize on my own as I recovered. A lot of these were from talking to other people. I've been really active in the bottom surgery groups on Facebook and other social medias and stuff like that. I have quite a few people that I've talked to, so this isn't just my personal experience. I will intertwine my personal experience, but a lot of it is from what I've heard from other people, seen, talked to, information, stuff like that. So I have 9 myths here that I'm going to dispel. I don't know if I'll get to all of them in this video because I might be talking for quite a while, but I'll try and get through about half and then maybe cover half in another one. Who knows, maybe I will do the whole video. So they're not in order of which ones I hear the most. I just kind of wrote them out as I thought about them. So one of the first ones that I want to talk about that I hear is many people say it doesn't look real enough. I guess real, meaning like cis-like. For those that don't know what the term cis means, it's just cisgender, anyone that identifies as the sex gender they were born as. So a lot of people I hear in even the trans community say, oh, it doesn't look very cis-like, it doesn't look very real. It's gonna be too small, it won't pass in public or in change rooms, stuff like that. And that is actually a big myth. It was something that I was concerned about it at first, but it definitely looks a lot more cis-like or real if you're comparing it to that. I hate to say those terms because we're talking about people's bodies and about a very personal part of them, an intimate part, but it definitely doesn't look. Some packers look really real, so it could resemble packers, but it does pass, and it passes, in my personal experience, it passes quite well. I'm much more confident getting changed in change rooms now. I don't have anybody giving me strange glances or anything like that. I've been very open, posting pictures on my secret Facebook group. I've had cis people tell me that it looks very like it passes well, and I've had trans people tell me that, and just all around I feel very comfortable in the way that it looks, and that some people would never even know that I had a phallo. So and as far as like size, a lot of people may worry that it could be too small or too large on the other end. If you do have, so there's different kinds you can get, but the kind that I went with is RFF, or like radial forearm phalloplasty, so our free flap. So that basically takes it from your forearm here, and that's the donor site that they use to make it, and so that size usually yields about I'd say on average from what I've heard, 4.5 to 5.5 inches. Um, and that's just like a sort of range. I've heard people with lower. I ended up with lower. My sizes bounce around quite a lot. There's also people on the upper end that end up with 6. And then if you also do ALT from the thighs, the donor site, it can be larger. So it definitely doesn't end up being too small, especially because the like average flaccid size for cis men is not that large generally. So the next point I want to hit on here is that if you're worried about it not looking as cis passing, then there's medical tattooing you can do to enhance it. This is something that I did, and I'll speak later to in a later video, but it definitely helped me feel more comfortable in its appearance. Then there's also the placement. You can have things like testicular implants, and that helps kind of bring the scrotum forward and look more natural and hang more natural. Also, when they do phalloplasty, generally they will move everything up a little bit so it's more anatomically cis male. So that will match that look a little bit more. And helps with the bulge in pants and stuff as well. Also, for the looks, you can have other things like glandsplasty can be added on, which helps show the glands more. Like it makes the glands basically, and that definitely helps with it looking cis. And also, you can get an erectile device, and if you're concerned about the flaccid versus erect look, then the erectile device will help that. I can get more into that later in another video as well. It's just an overview. So that's the first myth. So the second myth is that technology is not advanced enough yet. People are still saying they're waiting on technology to advance. There's not many options. It'll get better. It's not as good as like a cis one would be. And a lot of the people saying this, and I'd say pretty much all of the people saying this are people that are pre-op, that may not know anybody that's had phalloplasty on their own, or that are just hearing things through other people, because it is quite advanced. When I started looking into it more, I started discovering all the different areas. There's many surgeons on the team. It's not just one surgeon generally, depending on which surgeon you go to. Usually it's not just one surgeon going in and doing it. It involves urologists, it can involve microsurgeons, plastic surgery, like all these different elements. It has like nerve hookups so you can have sensation. It allows for blood flow as you do, like blood vessels are getting hooked up as well. There's the glandsplasty, which allows for a better look. There's urethral lengthening as well, which allows you to stand to pee. And then there's scrotoplasty, which builds a scrotum. You can have vaginectomy, which removes, I guess I should have did a disclaimer that I'm gonna have like anatomical terms in this whole description, so I'm sorry if that triggers any dysphoria or anything, just so you're aware. Then you can have the vaginectomy, which removes the vagina. That scarring for that is pretty amazing. Like, you would have no idea that was ever there. So it is quite advanced with all the options and all the things that can be done and how it can provide function and look. There's also, you can choose combinations of what you want. So some people may not care so much about standing to pee. That might not be their priority, so they won't go for urethral lengthening. And that can eliminate some complications, but you don't have to get urethral lengthening, or you can. You can choose not to get vaginectomy, or you can. You can choose not to get glandsplasty. So you can choose which site you want. You can choose not to have vaginectomy and urethral lengthening. You can choose to have one or the other. So there's plenty of options you can play around with to fit your own needs. So that's quite advanced in that way too, and there's plenty of options. The amount of options that you can have, I didn't know going into the surgery. So I think it's so important to explain that. You're not less for not wanting some of them, or more for wanting all of them, and you can play around to get what you need. And then also you can choose from different donor sites. So the donor site meaning what you take to actually make the penis itself. And so that each donor site has its pros and cons, that's a whole other video, but you can get it from your leg, ALT, or RFF from your arm, MLD from your back, abdominal from your abdominal. Like, there's plenty of different places, and surgeons do many of these depending on which surgeon you go to and what your body can offer, because some people can't get all, but then again, that's a whole other video. You can also have optional things you can add on later that help suit your needs. There's fat grafting. You can add to your arm or even to your penis itself. You can have Integra, which that's like a whole other thing as well. I don't know a whole lot about Integra because I didn't get it personally, but that can help with like the indent on your arm and any scarring on your arm. Just gives like a better appearance. You can have testicular implants done later, which also give you options. You can have your erectile device, and which erectile device, there's options in that too. So plenty of options, very advanced, a lot of technology put into this. And so just exploring those kind of dispels that myth that it's not there yet, because it's really there. The third myth that I have on here is that this one is a huge worry, and I hear this one the most from everybody. This is like the number one thing that I get asked when I allow people to reach out to me when there's pre-op people. This was a major thing that I had thought before I even talked to anybody, and that's sensation. People are so worried about losing sensation, having no sensation, losing any like sexual function, ability, stuff like that, and what the sensation will look like after. So I just wanted to speak to, like, there's more than just sexual sensation. There's also tactile sensation, which is varying pressure or vibration that is felt on the skin, against the skin. So that can be like light pressure or deep pressure. So there's that. Then there's another type of sensation. There's temperature, so hot and cold. And then there's erotic sensation, which is the sexual sensation. So there's many different sensations, and I'd say for pretty much I have all of them. My tactile sensation isn't the greatest, but that's not super important to me anyways. I need quite a lot of deep pressure to feel. Like, if it's moved in my underwear, I don't really know unless it's like putting pressure against it. But that doesn't concern me so much, and that's not the case for everyone, so don't take what I experienced personally as just that is what it is for everyone, because it's not. Temperature, I have that. I can feel hot, I can feel cold. Erotic sensation, definitely have that. And now I'll explain some kind of science behind it, because a lot of people don't understand how it can have these sensations. But so basically, they harvest not only blood vessels from, I'm just going to use RFF as like an example. So they harvest two nerves from it. And so when they say nerves, it's not the actual nerve that they take. What they do is they take the flap, which has, when you cut the nerve dies. But that doesn't mean that you have no sensation. They still have something called the nerve sheath. So the microsurgeon, they would attach the nerve sheath to the nerves. So you have an existing nerve in the pelvic area, so the clitoral nerve, the ilioinguinal nerve. These are nerves that are directly in the pelvic area and will give tactile sensation, temperature sensation, and definitely erotic sensation. I drew a little diagram, and I'm sorry for my drawing, but this will kind of explain. So here you have the nerves in the pelvis. These exist, these are already intact, nothing happened. Then you take the sheath. This is the sheath. So there's no nerves in there yet. It's just the nerves died, but it's like the pathway for them. It's like the highway that was there. So when you connect that to these nerves here, it actually allows the nerves know where to go now. And they're going to travel down this highway and regrow. So nerves grow about a millimeter, I think, a month or something like that. I don't know. Don't quote me exactly, but they grow really slow, but they do grow, which is why immediately post-op you might not have sensation. You're freaking out. You're like, I don't feel anything there. Well, it takes quite a while. It can take many months. Some people, it's faster. Mine came back quite quick. I started noticing these little zaps, some pain first, which I think is the most, that's the sensation I hear coming back from everyone first. You feel these zaps. And for me, that happened around 2.5 months. And then it progresses into the other sensations. And you can continue to have these sensations grow for up to years. I think it took me a good 1.5 years to gain like sensation, fully erotic sensation in the entire thing. And then still, I feel like I'm having sensations pop up. So, you know, you don't lose that. And even if you don't have nerve hookup, because from some sites you won't, you still always have your the original clitoris that's buried. And that can always still be